Perfect. Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here this morning and talk about a topic that's really near and dear to my heart. As mentioned, I'm with Crestwood Behavioral Health. We're a large for-profit company here in California. We have facilities from Eureka to San Diego, inpatient as well as outpatient, or inpatient as far as unlocked and social rehab. Outpatient meaning kind of more like we're doing skills and groups and things like that. So we as an organization really pride ourselves on being recovery oriented and utilizing a recovery approach. And so I'm here just to kind of impart on you all what that means, what recovery means to us. My hope for you this morning is just to really kind of make it come to life for you to think about things from a different perspective, for you to maybe think, I have a recovery story. I too have gone through something. What can I then share with the clients that I serve, the families that I serve? Because recovery happens to all of us. We just don't really think about it from that perspective. So this morning I am going to share a little bit about the things that I've learned along the way being at Crestwood, and then before that working in mental health, and also just how recovery impacts all of us. And I've given you lots of handouts. I know you've seen that, really to kind of spark your ideas, your memories, and get an idea as to, how can we really use these tools in a meaningful way. Okay? So without further ado, here we go. I love quotes, so I thought I would start with a good one. J.K. Rowling, obviously we know her through all the Harry Potter books, and she's no stranger to recovery. I think she's one very openly talks about her struggles in writing the Harry Potter books. She didn't always have the means. I think there was a period of time she was using napkins and tissue and all kinds of different things that she could collect to actually write her ideas on when she was formulating the concepts of Harry Potter. So she's one that I think is just amazing and has a lot to say. So understanding is the first step to acceptance, and only with acceptance can there be recovery. So I just put on the bottom, write your own recovery quote, and you obviously have a lot of handouts and things and paper that you can use, or maybe even just think about, what would my recovery quote be? Maybe you have a mantra that you've used over your lifetime. I've had one, I think I can, I know I can, and you're gonna see that here in a few more slides. But just something that resonates with you, like what fuels you, what speaks to you. Maybe you have an author or a book or a quote that is really something that's kind of speaks to your spirit. So just think about that for a second, if you will. What is recovery? By definition, recovery means to return to a normal state of health, mind, or strength. What does recovery mean to you? Well, to me, it means that we all walk through life and things happen to us along that journey. We may go through, triumph, we may go through hardship, we may have a loss, we may recover from a health issue, we may recover from a divorce, we may recover from a financial issue, we may recover from our own mental health issues. We all have some type of a story. We all recover from something. And utilizing a recovery-oriented approach is just that. It's the story. It's saying, I have something, and I'm happy to share that something with you so that that something can help you to see that recovery is possible. Because if I'm living being proof that recovery is possible, I'm standing here, I'm now employed, this is what I'm doing, this is how you're gonna inspire somebody else that recovery is possible. One of the first things I learned at Crestwood after just being a new clinician coming out of school is it's okay to share. One of the things in graduate school you learn as a social work student is boundaries, right? Any of you have gone through the master's program and received a degree in that area. One of the first things they talk about is your boundaries and your ethics, and you want to make sure you don't self-disclose too much. But what I learned afterwards is if I don't figure out the balance of how to self-disclose a little bit, then I'm going to be very rigid and cold in my interactions with those that I'm working with. And I'm going to be much more effective if I can say, you know what, I get it. I understand what's going on. I had a family member go through that, or I too have had bouts of depression due to loss or different things that have gone on in my life. So being able to really say that connects those dots. It helps that person to feel at this moment you understand. How have you recovered? And from what? We all have a recovery story, and we use that story to create meaning and purpose in our life. So it was really in the 1990s did we start talking about recovery? Did the mental health model change from that recovery of medical, more kind of hands-off, kind of a colder textbook feel to the switch over of it being more friendly, it being more inviting, us self-disclosing, sharing our recovery story, using tools, many that I've given you today, to spark that process for folks. But what I've learned along the way is if we can't figure out how to spark that process for ourselves, we're not going to be able to do that for others. So everything I'm talking to you this morning about, I want you to think about for yourself first. And this is a very interactive class, so I want you to ask questions. I want you to say, hey, I've been through this. Now I get it. Now I understand. I'm not asking you to share everything because obviously we're just getting to know each other, but what you feel comfortable sharing. I had a lady a few weeks ago when I was here really kind of have this aha moment where she said, oh my gosh, I now feel so much better because you too have gone through this situation. You too have had test anxiety when it comes to taking your LCSW exam. Wow, I'm not the only one. Right? So the power of our story is what inspires others and motivates others and kind of somewhat normalizes things for people to say, oh, okay, I get it. So I'm talking to you this morning because I want you to understand this first so that you can then take it and apply it to the clients that we work with. So again, I would just ask you that question, what have we recovered from? We use it to create meaning and purpose, and your act of recovery will inspire recovery in others. This is, by definition, peer support. I don't know if we have anybody trained here this morning that's going to go on and do peer support and programs. Sometimes in classes we find those folks, but at Crestwood we utilize peer support in almost everything we do. And what peer support is it's actually someone else that has walked through this program, maybe is now graduated, living in the community, but has a recovery story, has had a mental health challenge, has had some behavioral issues in their life, and now they can come back and share with our clients, I get it, I know what it's like to be in your shoes, and it's possible to discharge. You will get out of here, okay? So these folks, many of them come back and are employed with us. We have a vocational paid employment program through our organization where we pay clients either while they're with us or when they discharge to come back and provide those peer support services. And hands down, it's the most meaningful interaction that client is going to have during their entire day. And when I ask many of our clients when they get ready to discharge, what's one thing that really spoke to you, that helped you to recover, that motivated you in a way that maybe we were not able to do in individual therapy in groups or milieu therapy or what have you. And they said the power of peer support. Okay. So we are also peer support, right? We are also peer supporting our fellow coworkers, right? Our neighbors, our friends, our family members, somebody that is now going through something that you have gone through. Because who knows it better than the person who's gone through it? My sister was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer about 9 years ago now. And of course it was devastating. But she ended up now, through this process, sharing that story with other folks and inspiring others, and now she has her own Relay for Walk committee, and we walk every year, and she has a team. And when she's out there, people will come to her booth and they'll say, you know, how did you get through this cancer? Or what did you do? Or, you know, when you felt this way, how did you get through it? Or were you on this medication? And she would talk openly about that process. And it was through that interaction and being there in that moment to support my sister, I had an aha moment like, yeah, she's doing peer support. She's doing peer support with, you know, fellow cancer survivors or someone in the moment that is going through treatment. So peer support is happening everywhere. We just don't always think about it from that perspective. Don't be ashamed of your story. It will inspire others. So you'll see I have quotes kind of infused throughout. So I want you to think for a second, what is my recovery story? And how will I use this story to help others? Okay, so your first handout is called Sometimes We Struggle. You can grab that out for me. Hopefully everybody has a pen this morning. And this is, again, just kind of going to get our mind thinking about, what have I been through? What can I use as my story? So there are often days when I feel so bad that I become unable to see how things are. Often my thoughts are twisting and turning throughout a maze of total and brutal negativity. I find myself grasping for air and grasping for a hand to hold on to, yet sometimes it seems that I am very alone. I ask myself, is this struggle for wellness and recovery worthy of all my efforts? Why am I dedicating all of my hard work and time and effort towards my recovery? What is this recovery that I am fighting so hard for? It is important for us to think of that big picture. When we work hard to improve our quality of life and strengthen our coping skills, we will experience beneficial results. When we struggle, experience difficulties, and question our recovery, we can and will take back our lives and celebrate our progress, accepting that sometimes we struggle. What has been your struggle, and how has meaning and recovery been there for you? So maybe you want to just take a second to number a few things or write down a few bullet points. Maybe there's a struggle that you're going through right now that's very real for you. Or maybe you have somebody in your family that's really struggling. But I want you just to kind of think about that and jot down a few notes in this moment if you're willing to do that. And then lastly, I'd like you to think about, okay, I've now put these struggles down on paper, and maybe you've never done that before. Maybe you've written something down that you were surprised that you actually wrote down, because that happens. But maybe think about, what was my takeaway from that? What did I learn from that struggle? Or how has that changed me? Like I shared, my sister's diagnosis of breast cancer was horrible, of course, but her takeaway was, I'm stronger than I was before. I can recover and I can help other people through this challenging event. Would she have known that when she was first diagnosed? Of course not. It took that journey and that process for her to realize, I too have something. So maybe just look at your list and then write down, what was my takeaway? Okay, so again, I love quotes. I just think they speak to us, and we can find all different types of quotes that really impact us, touch our lives. So I use quotes all the time. I put them on my newsletters, I put them in our milieus. I'll put them on the bottom of emails, because I really think they get us thinking about what it means, right? It's a way that we can impart maybe something that we're working on in our life to say, hey, here's something I'm thinking about. What do you think about this? So just some great quotes I've been able to find along the years. Recovery is not for people who need it, it's for people who want it, right? We know that you have to want to recover, you have to want to change, walk to that other side, so to speak. Strength grows in the moments when you think you can't go on but you keep going anyway, right? So the times when you think, I'm gonna give up, I can't do this, then comes that strength, and that strength is what fuels you to that finish line. Don't be ashamed of your story. It will inspire others. This one really touches my heart. I have a client who has gone through the Community Family Learning Center peer support certification class, and that's offered here through our county. Our clients who are able to do this are able to then become certified in peer support. And what that means is, it means it's an opportunity for them to become employed in some type of a mental health setting or program. And it's 2 weeks. It's actually a college type class, so there's a lot of studying, there's a lot of sharing stories, public speaking. They take a final, and at the end of the 2 weeks, they get their peer support certificate. And she was sharing with me before she was living in our milieu and attending every single day, back and forth, and then coming back at night. So before she started the class, she said to me, I just don't think I can share my story. I think that it will embarrass people, and I think that I will then become embarrassed, and I just don't want to share my story. And I just said to her, your story is beautiful, and your story is what makes you unique, and it's what's going to inspire other people that recovery truly is possible. And you're living, breathing document of that. So if you don't share your story, it's a missed opportunity. It's an opportunity that's going to literally pass you by and pass others by, because they're not going to really be able to grab a hold of the message that your life has been. And she goes, well, I never really thought about it that way. So when she came back that night, I said, did you share your story? And she said, I did. I was so scared, and I thought that they were literally going to laugh me off the stage, but I shared my story. And at break, someone else came to me and said, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you did, because I too have gone through that same thing. And I didn't want to share my story either. But because you shared your story, I now feel more comfortable sharing my story. And I just thought that was such a beautiful moment that she was able to share that and articulate that, because that's what we're talking about. If we're not sharing our recovery story, how are other people going to know that recovery is possible, right? It's what gets you and this client on the same page. It literally is what changes that relationship of I am the professional and you are the client to an equal playing field, that we're all here together walking through life doing the best that we can. And that really is what recovery-oriented services are about. It's taking away that hierarchy, taking away that desk in between ourselves and that client, right? But literally just standing next to them and walking with them on their recovery journey. Others I love, fall 7 times, stand up 8. You know, there's going to be lots of falls throughout the day, throughout the way, and our clients, need us to help them understand that you're going to get up, you're going to dust yourself off, and you're going to keep on going. Because that's what recovery is. And this fall is going to teach you what you need to know to keep moving forward. Because it's through our falls that help us in our lives, right? Which is why I asked you to think about, what was my takeaway from this struggle? We all learn something in those moments. We don't like them when we're in them, right? But we learn a powerful message from that process. Okay, we can't help ourselves. We can't help each other. Even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. Can't solve problems by using the same thinking you used when you created them. So that's, again, being able to step back and think, what's my takeaway? What have I learned from this process so now that I can use it for future problems? Remember, you are the most important person in your recovery. I love that one because, and I've been guilty of this too, as a professional, you want something so badly for your client that you're almost kind of pushing what you want on them, right? As opposed to saying, this is your journey. This is about you. This is your life. I can't want you to change more than you want to change for yourself. I can share examples of how I've been there when I haven't wanted to change or when I've been resistant. But I can't make you do this. This is about you wanting something and you pushing through to get to that other side. So I like that one because I think it reminds us that we can't work harder for our clients than they're willing to work for themselves. They have to want to do the work. And we have to find ways to motivate them and empower them to do that. Okay, so there are 4 stages of recovery. The first is hope. The second is empowerment. Third is self-responsibility. And the fourth is a meaningful role in life. Let's talk about those. So hope is, in our darkest times, we draw upon hope, a sense or belief that things will get better, or accepting the belief that this too shall pass. So oftentimes our clients say, I've lost my hope. I can't go on, I don't know what to do, I can't get out of bed in the morning. And of course, automatically we start thinking of mental health labels, right? Oh, they sound depressed, they sound this, they sound that. But we've all been there, right? We've all lost our hope probably at our time, in our lifetimes here and there have drained that from us. But what we want to do is help inspire that hope is possible again, okay? So somebody maybe along your journey provided that hope for you, right? Provided that cheerleading, provided that inspiration, kind of stood behind you and were your champion to your cause, okay? We are that for our clients. I have clients that sometimes say, I've lost my hope. And at Crestwood, we say, well, we're gonna hold it for you. We have enough hope for you right now until you have hope for yourself. And then we'll pass it off to you when you've got your hope back. So a lot of times clients will say before they discharge, I have my hope back. And I say, okay, perfect. I'll take it back because I knew you'd get it. I just loaned it to you for a minute. So I really think that is what it's about. Sometimes we are holding it for them until they can hold it themselves. Hope can be our greatest motivator, right? I can recover. My sister can recover from her cancer. We always had that hope, and she did. Hope that things will get better. Right, that kind of mantra, this too shall pass, that's hope. Sometimes hope needs to take an actual form, something that we can see, a clear vision of possibilities. Sometimes hope is laid out in a treatment plan, right? If you can do X, Y, and Z, then this will happen. So we're laying that hope out for that person. Or if we can do this, then you'll be able to see your loved one on this day, right? A lot of times we'll say to our clients, if you can do X, Y, and Z, then it looks like you'll probably discharge in a couple of days, especially if they're in our PEF unit, which is our most acute psychiatric facility. So it's really helping them to see that there is a possibility, okay? There is something around that corner that's meaningful that I can grab a hold of. Because oftentimes when we lose hope, it's because we've lost a sense of direction, right? We've lost a goal, we've lost a perspective. So we want to be able to try to give that as many times as we can. Any questions about hope? Empowerment. So empowerment is really empowering someone else to think about things from a different perspective. I'm kind of empowering you all this morning to think about recovery in a way that maybe you have never thought about before. Empowering you to think about, you know, what will my recovery story be and how can I share that with other people? So empowerment is really just kind of saying, you know, here is this education, here is this belief, here is this concept that I would love you to take a look at. I invite you to think about for a moment that you can infuse into your everyday life and then infuse into the lives of others. And I like to also think of empowerment as giving our clients that opportunity to do something for themselves, right? So instead of us going over and rescuing and picking something up for them, right? Empowering them to go over and pick it up for themselves. Empowering them to make that crucial first phone call that maybe they need to make to Social Security or to the child support office because they have some things that they need to tie up. And they may say, well, I don't want to do it. Have my service coordinator do it. It's like, no, I empower you to do it. This is part of your recovery. We want to help you make that first step, right? I'm empowering my daughter right now who is 17 and, thinks that she can't call and make these phone calls that she needs to make about her senior pictures or her, class jacket that she wants. Oh, you call, Mom, you do that. Well, you're 17, you're gonna graduate from high school next year. If I don't start empowering you to make these phone calls and really helping you to be independent, you're not gonna do well in life, right? So it's seeing those opportunities and saying, okay, I empower you to do this on your own. You can do this, okay? So it's showing that capability. It's putting power where the power needs to be, oftentimes back on that individual. providing the education. So, when I was saying to my daughter, let's make these calls, I'm kind of role playing with her before. This is what we're going to do. This is maybe how we're going to say it. How do you feel about this? If the person doesn't understand what you're saying, how are you going to articulate that in a different way? So I'm kind of laying out the education. And it was so funny because as we're kind of role playing this scenario, she says, well, what if this person is mean? I'm like, well, you're calling a business, you're asking questions, you want to find out about how much a jacket is, what the process is to have things sewn on the jacket. I don't think this person's going to be mean. And if they are, we're not going to be doing business with them, right? They are a service deliverer. We have a product that we want to have serviced. So they're probably not going to be mean. But if her and I hadn't had that example, she would have gone through life thinking every time I make phone calls, people are going to be mean, right? So opportunities to educate. They come in all shapes and sizes. Focusing on the strength, focusing on the choice. And sometimes we hold the hope of recovery until the individual can hold it, and that's kind of the story that I shared. One success will empower another and another, and it motivates another. And that is probably the thing that I want you to take away the most from this training, is that if we provide that opportunity for success, the client will feel that success, and then they will then feel like they can go out and work on that next step, that next area in their life that they want to do. And I see this so often. I saw that the other day with my daughter. Oh, that wasn't so hard. I don't know what I was worried about. That person was really nice. Yeah, see, you can do it. Same thing with our clients. Okay, you know what? I was able to make that phone call to, Social Security. That wasn't so hard. I really learned something through that process. Yeah, exactly. And when you have another, peer or somebody on our unit, or maybe your roommate that needs to make that call, you can empower them and cheerlead them and help them through it too. See what a wonderful process that can be? But it comes through just the individual steps that we're taking. Any questions? Are you guys thinking about who's been empowering you in your lives? Or maybe how we can be more empowering and not rescuing, because we have a tendency to do that too. We all came into the mental health field for some reason, and a lot of times the reason that we came sticks with us. But we want to, step back and remember that we want to empower as much as possible, because that's what's going to motivate success. The next is self-responsibility. As people with behavioral health issues recover, they learn to take responsibility. We hope they learn to take responsibility, right? But that comes with us first learning how to take responsibility for ourselves and giving those clear-cut examples. So again, back to my daughter. If I hadn't figured out, why she was concerned about making this phone call to, to the shop that does the high school, jackets, I would not have, basically taken responsibility for the fact that I've been kind of enabling her. Yeah, she's 17 years old, and it's just so easy as a parent to get on the phone and do that. But I'm not teaching her anything. I'm not helping her become independent. I'm certainly not shaping that behavior. In a year, she's going to be maybe out on her own or in the adult world. And, I'm still doing a lot of things for her that she really could be doing on her own. So it starts with me first. What do I need to be doing more of? How can I help her be more independent? Same things, with our clients. If we're going and picking them up and taking them to X, Y, and Z, and we're not talking in the car about, okay, so when we get to X, Y, and Z, what do we need to be doing? And, how do you think that's going to make you feel today? And let's talk about some things that might come up from this. And, what do we think will be our takeaway that we're going to learn from this? And we're going to go and we're going to get our medications. Do you have any questions that you want to ask about your medications? Because remember the last time, as soon as we left, you wanted to go back because you had those questions. So it's really kind of taking that responsibility there in that moment. How can I make this a better interaction for this client? How can I help them move forward, right? Because sometimes we may not be taking those steps that we need to be doing. And then there's those missed opportunities. So how can we hold a client responsible when we're not holding ourselves responsible first? Okay? So we want to do that. And then we want to model it. Perfect example, when we make mistakes with our clients, sometimes saying, oh, my bad, I made a mistake. I I should have had you do that, right? I should have done this instead, or I should have asked you about this right after this visit, because you know what? You probably had a lot of really big feelings about that, and I really should have asked you about that. So my bad. Because then they start to see, oh, you're a real person. You make mistakes. You're not a mental health robot standing here with me, right? So we're modeling. Everything we're doing is modeling. We're shaping those behaviors, okay? But again, it starts with us. They have to take those risks to try new things and to learn how to grow from those challenges. It is through this process that self-responsibility will begin. After all, this is how we learned, okay? So a lot of times we'll say to clients, well, you know what? We've got to stay on our medication. May not be able to go to this, next level if you can't stay on your medication. But we want to help them understand, why are you on those medications? What are the importance of those medications? What medications are you taking for what symptoms, and how are those medications making you feel, right? Because if they're not taking responsibility for the medications, how the medications are making them feel, what the medication's purpose are, when they're not on their medications, how their behavior affects them, what they then do behaviorally that affects them, then we're missing the opportunity for them to really connect the dots and have insight, right? So everything we do is about helping them have personal responsibility for themselves. Does that make sense? Do you guys have any questions about that? Okay. Part of taking that responsibility is also letting go of any anger and blame and disappointment and the feelings that come up from that. There are going to be those days when we work with clients that we want it more than they do, right? And then something happens and they have a hiccup and they end up back in the hospital, or you get a call on that Friday that they're starting to decompensate and you've worked with them all week long to get them to a better place, but now you're hearing that, oh, they're on their way to the Mary Kay Shell, and you think, why? Why is this always that Friday 4 o'clock call, right? What am I going to do differently? But it's not about us. It isn't about us. It's about them, and it's about their recovery, and it's about what they need and what they're feeling, okay? And so a lot of times we do have to step back, and we have to take that anger and that blame and that disappointment away, and we just have to put it out there to this client and say, okay, it is what it is at this moment. So what can we do? Or how can I support you? Right? Or what's this process like for you? Maybe we want to say, I've noticed that on Fridays at 4 o'clock, you seem to really be triggered. You have a lot of big feelings on Fridays at 4 o'clock. So maybe I want to switch my session time to Fridays at 4 o'clock and help you work through those feelings that might start coming up to help get you through the weekend. Right? So we go into kind of that problem-solving mode and look at how I can assist them so that I can help this to be a success. Okay? 5 key recovery concept exercise. That is your next one. You guys want to pull that out? Okay, so we just talked about a few of these already. And this worksheet comes from Mary Ellen Copeland, who was a developer of WRAP. WRAP stands for Wellness Recovery Action Plan. And the Copeland Center is a wonderful institute that was created by Mary Ellen Copeland because she is a person that's battled her own mental health issues, as well as her mom battling her own mental health issues. And she literally had an epiphany one day, and she said, I want more in my life. I want to have something come from having a life of mental health struggles. Her mom was obviously struggling with mental health issues back in the 50s when they used to put people in so-called asylums, right? That's what they used to call them. So she had witnessed growing up her mom being in these asylums. And then she then in turn had depression and all kinds of maybe other issues later on in life due to that. And so it was through her going through school and becoming educated and then having this desire that she wanted to make her recovery story and her life stand for something. And she went on to create the Mary Ellen Copeland Center. So there's a lot of exercises this morning that I'm pulling from her work because she is really a pioneer in recovery. The WRAP program is something we use for clients who are at Crestwood, and I'm sure it's something that the county utilizes as well. It's an evidence-based practice that's very, very well known. So this exercise kind of just gets you thinking about these 5 key concepts. We've talked a little bit about hope, And so what I want you to do this morning is think about, what does hope mean to me? Maybe when have I lost it? How did I gain it back? And who helped me with that? The next is personal responsibility. When have I really needed to take personal responsibility? And how has that personal responsibility shaped me in being a better mental health professional, or better wife or mother or father or brother or sister, whatever it is in your role, because we all have many roles in our life. But how has that personal responsibility shaped me in my recovery? It's funny because a lot of times our clients will say, I don't like this medication and I don't want to take it. And I'll say, have you told your doctor that? Does your doctor know you don't like this medication and you don't want to take it? No. It's a perfect example of personal responsibility. Well, I think you should have that conversation then, right? Education. Who has educated me along the way? Or maybe an area that I really felt like I needed more education in my recovery. So if I didn't learn how to budget well, I can't blame, my mom and my dad on my financial problems, or I can't blame my wife or my, spouse on my financial issues if I wasn't really taking responsibility and educating myself on what I needed to do to be budgeting, right? I mean, that's just a very generic example, but we can think about how education affects us or lack thereof, and then maybe a way that we could have used it differently. And then self-advocacy. Who has helped me become an advocate? Or how have I really needed self-advocacy in my life? Maybe it was missing for me in this area, or maybe I was so strong in self-advocacy that I was doing this and I was doing that, and this in turn is how I recovered. So really thinking about a time that self-advocacy has really been a role for you in your life. And then the last is support. Who has supported you? What does support mean to you? Have you always had support? Maybe you've had a limited support system, and maybe it was during that time that things were really hard for you. Maybe you're supporting someone right now in this moment with something that's really hard for them. And a little bit about, I shared how my sister was supporting those during her breast cancer walk, her Relay for Life, and how she connected with quite a few folks and exchanged phone numbers and became a support system to a lot of folks that really didn't have that support system in place. Or maybe even a time when you really have supported a client or a family member to the point where you can say, you know what, it was through my interactions, it was through my support with this person every day that this recovery was possible. And the goal behind thinking about these key concepts is, these are really those pillars like we talked about of recovery. We want to be able to have these stories kind of right there within our grasp. So when we're working with a client, we're working with a family member, we're really focusing on how can I make this meaningful? How can I share my story that Rhonda was talking about in our seminar to make this impactful, to create that purpose? If you have kind of these things right there in your mind already, it's going to be much more easy for you to be able to share them in that moment and have that interaction be much more meaningful. So that's really my purpose with all these exercises, is to get you thinking about that recovery story, applying these principles to your life, and it's going to always be an ever-changing process, but just for you to feel really comfortable with them so that you can draw from them, pull them out of your toolbox when you're working with those clients and those family members, because the work that you do is going to be much more meaningful and impactful and genuine. Any questions about our 5 key concepts? So I wrote something up here this morning. It's called the garden, and I want to take a minute to kind of tell you what the garden is used for. It's definitely a wrap term through the Mary Helen Copeland Center, and something I've been trained to use over the years as a trainer with Mary Helen Copeland Center. But I also wanted to just share that this is a great tool and a way to use it with clients, use it in, maybe if you're working with family members. And for you guys, the purpose of it is I'm just putting up here saying garden. So garden can be, right now in this training, I have a question or I have a thought or I have an idea, but I don't really want to share it in the middle of the training, and I'm not really sure how I want to ask it, but I want to get it down somewhere before I forget. So you can come over here and just write that on the garden. And what that does is it just prompts me to look at how can I try to infuse this into the training if I can find that opportunity. Or it gives me an idea of, okay, someone would like to talk to me about this concept so that I can make sure that I check in with you guys about it before I leave. So it's a really great way to kind of have a sidebar, if you will, about a topic, but not necessarily have to put it right out there in that training to everybody or right out there in that conversation with everybody. So I like it because there's so many ways you can infuse it in your life. It used to be called the parking lot, but now it's called the garden. So if anything comes up that you guys want to ask me questions about, you're, unsure about something that I just talked about, or you really don't want to share it because it's personal in the training, but you want to, spark my attention, please feel free to write a little blurb in the garden, okay? All right, let's move on. People do recover. They recover even when there is no cure for their illness, from a stroke when their nerve cells have been damaged, from heart attacks, even though their heart muscles never regrow. We recover from divorce, from loss, from trauma, and all kinds of tragedy. We recover. So recovery really is a very broad topic, which is my hope this morning in helping you see. It's not just from a mental health challenge. It's not just from trauma. It can be from anything. Let's say somebody has a severe heart attack and now we know their heart muscle is damaged and maybe their heart is not functioning at that full capacity, but they're a marathon runner. Okay, so they're on, medication now, and they have a prescription from their doctor to alter their lifestyle, but they're still out there maybe running in marathons, but maybe the marathon is a very short distance marathon. Maybe the marathon is more of a walking marathon rather than a running marathon. Would that be considered recovery? Sure, yeah, right. So, let's say, for example, you have this divorce that occurs in your life and you've been married 25 years and you just can't even imagine life without this person. And all of a sudden one day you get up and it just doesn't feel so bad. You actually have hope that, you know what? I wasn't all that happy in that marriage anyway. This wasn't fulfilling for me. I wasn't feeling supported. I am going to be okay. That's recovery. Okay? A meaningful role in life. So we talked a little bit about this just a few minutes ago when I shared the example of our Dreamcatchers program at Crestwood. One of the things that we see time and time again is a lot of times our clients don't believe recovery is possible because they don't have a meaningful role. Okay? And they don't always have a role in their recovery. So that's where we want to really help them understand this is about you. This is your experience. This is your journey. I am here just walking alongside of you for the next couple of months or years or however long you're assigned to this person's caseload. But what I want to help you do is to see that your life has meaning. Okay? We do something called DBT at Crestwood. It's called dialectical behavior therapy, and it was developed by a lady named Marsha Linehan in the 90s. She's a clinical psychologist who also has her own recovery story. She was a teenager that was in many psychiatric facilities over the years because of her self-harm. And what happened is she just went through these facilities and felt that she wasn't always getting the treatment that she needed. And that was kind of the inspiration to her to go to school and to become educated and to get the degree she needed. And then she wrote this phenomenal treatment program. And I think you guys are getting some training on that over the next couple of weeks. It's called DBT, Dialectical Behavior Therapy. One of the biggest things that she talks about in DBT that I think is just spot on is she says, we need to all have a life worth living. And we need to help our clients build a life worth living. Because if we're not doing that, what do we have, right? If we're not getting up every day, living the life we want to live, building the life we want to build for ourselves, right, and being authentic, how can we help our clients build a life worth living? Okay. So this phrase is that. It's figuring out, how do I help my clients see that they have a role, that they can have a life worth living? Okay? So for example, getting a job, going back to school, having a pet, volunteering, contributing in some way, finding a hobby, anything, okay? It's developing a role outside of being a mental health or a behavioral health client, or a cancer survivor, or a veteran, or a mother, or a father. It's literally saying, I am all those things, and those things do not define me. I have other roles. Okay? A lot of times our clients, when they're at their most stagnant, when they're feeling hopeless and helpless, when they feel that recovery is not possible, is when they don't have this life worth living, when they don't have a role. Would you agree? Any of you ever felt that way when maybe you weren't working? Or you've been in between jobs, or somebody that's in between jobs? We have anxiety, we have depression, we have we have insomnia, right? We have all these things that come from not having this role, not having this life worth living. And so a lot of times at Crestwood, in our Dreamcatcher program, we'll go through and we'll talk about our clients every day and how clients are doing and maybe what could help them get to that next step. And time after time after time, it's typically, let's help them have more of a life worth living. Let's give them a role. Okay, maybe they're not attending groups because they're just burnt out on groups. And so we'll shake it up and I'll say to the staff, okay, well, let's fast track this person to Dreamcatchers. Let's get them working, right? And a lot of times my staff will say, well, Rhonda, they're not programming. I don't care if they're not programming. Let's fast track them to Dreamcatchers. Let's give them that role. Let's get them working. Let's help them. And then we'll figure out how to tie their groups into their vocational work. Let's see if maybe that changes for them. Maybe that's the difference they're needing, okay? A lot of our clients are grouped out. They've been groups their whole life, right? But let's change it up. Let's give them a role. Let's help them identify that I too can do something beyond just being a little compliant mental health client and going to groups and doing my outpatient, going to CFLC during the day and attending all my sessions, my therapist and taking my medication. That's fantastic, and those are all the things we want them to do, but we also want to give them some skills that they can hold on to so they can be successful, right? So that they can have the support they need that's lasting long-term support that is beyond all of us in this room, right? So we want to ask them those questions. How can we help you have a life worth living? What does that look like? So I have an exercise. Your life worth living handout. Let's grab that. So, number one, what are 3 goals that you have in your life? So again, it starts with you. We can't help our client build a life worth living if we're not figuring out what our own life worth living looks like.
Our goals or a dream?
Can be either one. Can be either one. Can be either one. Because your life worth living is a very broad concept. drink of my coffee here real quick. You know, maybe your dream or your goal is to go back to school. So the first thing you need to do is probably look at, well, what classes do I need to take, right?
It has to be about us though, right? Because
It's you first, because if you don't figure out how to help you, you're not going to be able to help a client. This is about you first. So I'm going to help you bring it down a little bit. I love Garth Brooks. I don't know if I have any Garth Brooks fans here this morning. He's phenomenal. And I really think is a very wise man. And he's had, obviously some challenges in his life, which he talks openly about. I've seen him in concert a couple of times. He puts on a great show. I'd highly recommend it to all of you. And I was happy just listening to him one day on XM Radio, and he was talking. He has his own Garth channel now, if any of you listen to XM Radio. And one of the announcers there was talking to him, and he said, Garth, you used to seem like such a happy-go-lucky guy. You've got a great attitude. You're very wise. What's the secret to your success? And he said, that's interesting. That's really an interesting question. He says, I have 3 concepts. Here are the 3 concepts. He says, first one, live where you want to live. Yeah, live where you want to live. So geographically, as much as possible, where do you want to be? Where do you want to live? What does that look like for you? Okay, so that was his number 1. Number 2, he said, do what you love. And Garth said, that's an easy one for me because I love to sing. I love to entertain, and he's good at it if you guys haven't seen him. The third one, he says, is love who you want to love. And he said, this one hasn't been always so easy for me. And so those fans know that, he was married for a long time to probably someone that he met in his earlier, stages of success, married this woman, had children, and you can only imagine being out on the road and the distance that it puts between 2 people and their relationship. So they ended up getting divorced. And then he spent some time single, and then he met the infamous Trisha Yearwood. And so he said for a long time in his life, he was just kind of not feeling fulfilled because he was in this marriage that he knew was probably dying slowly, unfortunately. And so he said, my advice is love who you want to love. So the DJ that morning on XM Radio goes, wow, Garth, that seems so simple. You have these 3 key concepts. Basically live where you want to live, do what you want to do, love who you want to love. And he goes, yeah, that seems pretty simple to me, but it's been my recipe for success. And I think that makes beautiful sense because it really breaks it down, right? Live where you want to live. Are you where you want to be? Are you doing what you want to be doing? Are you happy where you want to be in this point, right, in your life? Are you doing the career that you want to be doing? Are you feeling passionate about that career? Or what are the steps that I need to do to get where I want to be from point A to point B? And then, do I love who I want to love? Am I fulfilled? Am I spending my life with the person that I want to spend my life with? Of course, we would be probably looking at changing the way that we would be saying these to our clients. But if doing this exercise helps you to really ask yourself those questions of what does a life worth living look like for you, it might be simpler just to use the wise Garth Brooks mantra of a happy life. So that's my little 2-second plug to Garth Brooks. So number 2, do you believe that you could achieve any of your goals? So I put these goals down for myself or my dreams. Do you believe that you can achieve them? Do you have that hope? And if not, then why? Is it too big of a goal? Do I need to break it down and make it smaller so that success motivates success? It's kind of like, this weekend I'm going to go home and I'm going to clean my whole garage. Well, if my entire garage is a mess and there are boxes all over and it's dirty and it's dusty and there's all these different things that I need to organize and go through and dumps and Goodwill, and you know what I'm saying? People have those garages, right? That's probably not going to be a realistic goal, and I'm probably not going to want to do it, and so I'm going to give up and I'm not going to do it. My garage is not going to ever get clean. As opposed to saying this weekend, I'm going to do the right-hand corner of my garage. I am just going to start in this right-hand corner, and I am only going to go through boxes in the right-hand corner. Okay? See how I made that specific and I made it measurable, right? So we often are our own worst enemies because we set ourselves up with this big, huge, lofty goal, which is fantastic, but those big, huge, lofty goals are not always achievable because we're not specific. They're not measurable. And we do the same things with our clients. So again, I'm just asking you to think about for yourself first, because if you make this impactful, it's going to then carry out to the work that we do with our clients. Okay? And then 3, what are 2 steps that you can take to help yourself achieve these goals? So what can I do right now to help myself get there? Okay. So I can go home and I can start to organize that right-hand corner of my garage because I really want to have my entire garage clean so I can park my cars in the garage. Okay. Or I want to go back to school, but I don't know what I want to do, right? So maybe the first step is going and getting a course catalog, seeing what's out there, what's offered. So a lot of times people will say, well, I'm not living my life worth living. Well, have you asked yourself the questions you need to ask to get there? So I want to hear from you guys because you've been very quiet up to this point. I've been doing a lot more talking than you all have. What have you learned from this? What's your takeaway?
I think it's important that when we are coming alongside someone, walking through their life and their journey, that we have to be able to practice what we preach. Because the whole philosophy, even in regards to our children, but in all facets, the do as I say, not as I do motto, it doesn't really fly, especially with the folks that we serve. And so,
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
to kind of lead by example.
Right. Right. Because they can sense a fraud a mile away. I mean, I'm just to say it in a real way. They can just sense that fraud, right? And I've been there. I mean, I remember, like I said, coming out of school, working at Crestwood, doing a couple of groups, and I literally had a mental health professional, a peer mental health professional, there one day, observing one of my groups. She pulled me aside and she said, "Your groups are wonderful, super educational, you've got this great dynamic, the energy was good." And she's like, "But now you need to get real." She said, "You need to put your education over there and you need to talk the talk." And at first I was kind of offended. I thought, what? She said, "You need to share. The clients will shut you off in a second. You can't stand there and just read for rote what this group is about and how do we apply it to our life, and you'll feel so much better if you do this. Now you need to say, well, my opinion, when I've done X, Y, and Z, this is what happens, or when I've done this, this is what happens." So absolutely. And I tried it out. I mean, it took me a while, I'll say, to be a believer in what she said. But then after a while, after I was more comfortable in my role, more comfortable in my shoes, I put it in a different way. And I tried to be more recovery oriented. I tried to share my story. I tried to infuse examples. And I saw the difference immediately. I mean, I could see the difference between, doing the group and looking out there and seeing what the clients were looking at. How was it being received? Were their heads nodding? Did they seem like they were interested? Were they falling asleep or were they attuned? Were they sharing? Were they giving feedback? Okay, the whole group changed and it was much more enjoyable to teach and to train. Same thing with you all. If I came up here and talked about recovery and read recovery topics, didn't share any examples about anything that I have had in my life or folks have had in my life or how recovery has worked at Crestwood, you guys would just be like, okay. But I'm wanting to share. I'm wanting to provide those opportunities. I want you guys to share, right? And I'm giving you a lot of examples to really help you think about it. Examples that you could take and hand out and give to the clients. Okay? So it's a much more meaningful, enriching process for everybody. And we're authentic. We're real people. People that they're going to actually want to work with them, right? Anybody else? Anything you want to say? Yeah.
I think something that stuck out to me is the importance of how you were saying earlier, making goals reachable. It's nice to talk about recovery and how there's all these possibilities, but I think when you break it down to somebody and you explain that there's little things that they can do today to
Right.
help, reach the bigger picture later on, that in
Exactly.
itself instills hope because
Exactly.
then they feel well, this is the first thing I can do today and I'm already being productive.
Exactly.
So.
Right. That getting up today and brushing your teeth is fantastic, right? And we're going to cheerlead that. And tomorrow it's going to be get up and brush your teeth and maybe get in the shower. Right.
All of those little steps are part of recovery.
Exactly.
It's not just the final product.
Right. It's not that you're going to get up, you're going to brush your teeth, you're going to take your shower, you're going to take your medications, you're going to get out to the group, you're going to get on the bus, and you're going to get to CFLC today, right? You're going to do all these little things. And we may cheerlead that you got to your CFLC at the end of the summer, but we've got to help you every little step of the way see that this is a success. Exactly. And cheerlead that. And really just have those moments where we say, that's fantastic, you're doing a wonderful job. Yeah. Because we make huge goals for ourselves, right? Like, I'm going to lose 25 pounds before the end of the summer. Or I'm going to, fit into this in my closet. But we're not looking at, well, what do I need to do right now? What change do I need to do right now? Okay, and how can I hold myself accountable right now? So I'm going to eat 25% less food on my plate every day, right? Because that's measurable, it's specific, it's obtainable. And helping our clients do the same, creating goals in our treatment plans that are that specific, that are that measurable, and that are meaningful. A lot of times we have these goals for them, but they don't have the same goals, right? So are we going to be setting them up for success or failure? Right. Yeah. Okay, anybody else have anything at this point? Yes?
Rhonda, could one thing be too, when you're talking about celebrating those successes and cheering them on, but also being there when there's a backslide?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and not only being there when there's a backslide, but being there and being non-judgmental when there's a backslide, right? Being there and saying, hey, okay, you know what? We had a little hiccup. So what do we need to do? Let's figure this out together, right? And taking that non-judgmental stance, no matter what, I'm here, I'm walking alongside of you. I'm not in front of you, I'm not behind you, I'm not pushing you, I'm walking alongside of you. And I'm taking a non-judgmental stance. Because think about all the times we've had our own failures, right? And maybe we had a mom or a dad or an aunt or an uncle. I told you so, I told you not to do that. Did that change us? No. Okay, so what do we need to do? Let's figure this out. Because those hiccups are opportunities. Opportunities to learn and to grow. And for us to see it that way. And that's seeing things through a recovery-oriented vision. But it takes practice and it takes time. Because I have staff still to this day come to me and say, oh my gosh, so-and-so did X, Y, and Z, and I can't believe this because they're 6 months before discharge. And I say, great, that X, Y, and Z is showing us what we need to do. It's an opportunity to help us get here so they don't do this when they discharge. So I see this as a great thing. And they look at me and go, Rhonda, really? Yes, absolutely. Because it's how we help them grow and learn. And maybe what we didn't teach them in that moment, that missing piece that we wouldn't have seen if. Okay? So absolutely, taking that non-judgmental stance and really just saying, okay, let's figure this out. What can we do? How can I support you? How can I help you get to your goal? Okay, and really putting it out there in that way. Not, I'm gonna do this, but how can I help you? And we're gonna do this together. Okay? Would it be helpful to have like a quick 5-minute break, kind of get up, walk around? Is this a good time to maybe do that? Okay, so maybe just let's take a good little 5-minute break, get up, walk around, grab some more coffee, and we will reconvene here in about 5 minutes. We've really talked about up to this point, what does it mean to me? How does this recovery topic resonate for myself and what my recovery has looked like? Who has maybe helped me in my recovery? You've learned about your key concepts, your life worth living. And now it's really about thinking, how do I spread this vision? And what do I do from this point forward to kind of really walk that recovery walk, so to speak? So we always want to try our best to see the individual, see that client, see that consumer, whichever it is that we refer to them at this point, right? It changes every now and then, guests and so forth, as a person, a unique person with a unique story. Not a client with a diagnosis, not a case number, not a medical record number, but this person. Right now, I am working with this person, okay? How do we do that? That's not always easy, right? I think, unfortunately, we live in a society that labels and judges at times. And I think that when we see ourselves doing that, we just say, okay, you know, I need to really work on trying not to do that. Let me step back and remember that I'm working with this person, with this individual, with this family, with these situations, but not, you know, somebody that has borderline personality disorder or not a client that has schizophrenia, but a client who really needs my help and my support, because at times right now their mind is disorganized or they need some assistance in helping find, you know, placement, a secure environment for them to be in, because that hasn't always been easy for them. It's been a struggle. Like we talked about, walking side by side with them, not in front, not behind, moving along through treatment just as they are. Okay, so we're gonna move along, they're gonna stop. So we stop, right? They're gonna move, so we move. There may be times when that treatment plan is stuck, when it doesn't feel like it's moving at all. I would say look at that as an opportunity to change it. You know, I always tell my staff, if our clients aren't being successful with their treatment plan, our treatment plan might not be the success we want it to be. So let's change it up. Let's look at things differently. Let's, you know, take it step by step. If there's resistance at this moment, let's look at why is there resistance? And what can we do to create an opportunity? How can we change our mindset shift to help them change their mindset shift, okay? I see clients all the time sabotage because they don't want to discharge. They don't want to leave. They don't want to go out there in the community. They don't want to go to this room and board because they've been there before and they don't necessarily like it. But they're with us at Crestwood. They know exactly what to expect. They have the same people in their lives pretty much every single day because they get to know all of us as staff members, and they feel safe. They feel connected. So we kind of already know that there might be issues around discharge, and they may try to do a little self-sabotage around discharge because they don't necessarily want to discharge, right? So we kind of know that and we work that in step by step along the way with them. Anybody have any examples about that? Anybody in your field or up to this point had those kind of circumstances where you just felt like, okay, you know, I maybe was working harder for this client than they were willing to work for themselves, and when I realized that I needed to change the way I looked at it or the way that I shaped the treatment plan, things became much clearer and easier. Anybody have those moments? Yeah.
I just have a question.
Sure.
You said that, you know, they're not really doing the treatment plan and maybe we need to change it up. Like, is there like a time? Is there like, oh, you haven't been doing that for like, what, 3 weeks? You know, what you're supposed to?
You're going to be trained on a process here at the county that's going to support that for you. In my campus, you know, we are constantly, the treatment plan is a living, breathing document. It is always evolving. You know, what I say to them is if they have met a goal, that's great. Let's resolve that goal and let's add a new one. Or they have a behavior and now something is a new issue. Okay, we've got to add that now, add that behavior and add that new issue because it's constantly evolving. It's constantly a working document. But I think the biggest issue is that if you have a client that you feel like is really not moving forward and they're not making the progress that you want them to make, I would really just say to you, look at that as an opportunity to maybe say, do I have the right treatment plan for them? You know, maybe I need to change it a little bit or alter a little bit or get more of their buy-in of what do they want to work on? What is your life worth living goal? You know, because a lot of times our treatment plans aren't successful because it's what we want for them as opposed to what they want for themselves. And it's also managing those contingencies around those areas that we know they may have those struggles in. So like example that I shared is when we know we have those clients that maybe are going to have those issues before they discharge, kind of setting that treatment plan up for success around those issues, those fears that may start to dictate behavior because they don't want to discharge. So really looking at that as that opportunity to help them. And you're going to be trained on the treatment planning process within the county, so I'm sure they're going to give you the full timeline of how to update things and when to and why to and all that good stuff. But you know, I just want to share with you from like a recovery vision that a lot of times when our clients are not necessarily working the plan that we want them to work, it's because it's maybe not meaningful. It's something that we again think that they should be doing as opposed to something that they should be doing for themselves. Knowledge is power. We want to make sure that we're providing those opportunities for education, right? Providing those opportunities to help them understand their diagnosis, their symptoms, what to expect, what resources are available to them, you know, what support is available to them, and offering the individual, you know, what they can do on their own, setting up those opportunities for them to take responsibility, helping them to see that this part right now in your recovery is really you working these steps, right? And then this part in your recovery is maybe you and I working these steps together. And maybe this part in your recovery is your family system working these steps with you, right? So that they can really see how support is all around them and how that's going to look. Because a lot of times our clients say that they feel very alone with the process. You know, they don't feel like they have that support system around them. They don't feel like they really know what's coming around that next corner, right? So we want to help them as much as we can lay out what that picture is going to look like, okay? Because there's a lot of, you know, just the more our clients can see what the future holds for them, the less ambiguity there's going to be. Because a lot of time that ambiguity is what creates anxiety and crisis and so forth. So we really just want to help them to see what does this journey look like for you and how are we going to be on this together. Make sense? Okay, so next is going to be our recovery worksheet. Okay, so you guys have that. It's called Recovery is Wonderful. So our first question, what 2 things can you do to keep functioning when you are not well? Okay, so there are times in our lives, you guys have probably noticed this already, and if not, I will share this with you. There are times in your life when you probably have become unwell. There are times in your life that you have probably felt very, very stressed and very, very anxious and maybe a little depressed and a little burnout and just a little overwhelmed, right? Okay, that does happen, especially in the work that we do. So it's important for us to really look at what can I do to stay well and to be well. So what 2 things can you do to keep functioning when you are not well? So thinking about times when I wasn't well, times that Rhonda just described for me where I felt like I was kind of floating above myself, going through life on autopilot, just kind of doing what I needed to do without really living it. Versus what I was like when I'm well, when I'm really in touch with life, when I feel motivated, when I'm energetic, when, you know, life seems like it's just kind of flowing and, you know, I'm able to kind of make these great decisions. It's going to help me navigate through where I want to go. So again, think about what 2 things can I do to keep functioning when I'm not well? So what does that look like? Can I call this person? Can I do this? Maybe I just need to take a break or take a time out.
This is a part of the DBT model, right?
This right here is part of RAP. Yeah, it's part of RAP. And a lot of it is around self-care. Yeah, how we can keep ourselves well. So how can I keep myself functioning when I'm starting to not feel well? For myself, I make lists. I start to think about what do I need to do? Okay, let me focus on right now in this moment because I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. I feel like I've got a lot of loose ends around, right? Maybe I just need to kind of make a list, gets my thoughts organized on paper, and then go from there. Okay. Anybody want to share? What does this feel like for you? Yes.
Well, I just graduated from college, and my life is like coffee, 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 go, go, go.
Yes.
But you would think after so many years of coffee, like my body would get used to it, but I'm still very hypersensitive to it.
Okay.
And while that would give me energy to get all my stuff done, I would get anxious sometimes.
Sure.
Like I would overdo it.
Yeah.
So whenever I started to feel down or not well, that was like the first thing I knew I had to control. Like, okay, I focus back on my diet. What am I eating? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I squeezing at least a little bit of time to do some things for me during
Right.
the week?
Right.
So just taking care of myself.
Fantastic.
physically helped me
Yeah.
with all the other
Transfer over to the mental. Exactly. Physically, I need to kind of focus on this, and then it's going to carry over. Perfect example. That's awesome. Okay, others? Other things that you've noticed about yourself?
Well, I think that having the time to just be, not be someone's wife, not be someone's mom, not be someone's caseworker, not be, just to be.
Right. And to celebrate that for yourself. Find that time every day to do that. Yeah.
If you can't do it every day, well, yeah, you can.
You can.
do it when you're in the shower.
You can do it every day. You know what, I get what you're saying. That's been a huge one for me. And I literally, one of the things I first learned when I was really doing RAP and teaching RAP is I said to myself, I have to live my RAP plan. And if I'm not living my RAP plan, how can I teach RAP? And I'm not living my RAP plan because one of the things that I put on there is I am going to devote at least 30 minutes of time to myself at the end of the day. If I can give myself more, fantastic, but I am going to give myself at least 30 minutes. Because I noticed what happened, like you said, is you're everywhere all day, right? And everybody's grabbing at you and clinging to you and expecting something. And if you're not putting yourself back on track every day and finishing the day by celebrating your hard work or reading a book or watching a movie or, you know, whatever it is, sitting outside for 30 minutes and just basking in the sun or watching the stars or having a conversation with someone, doing something that you love, you're not replenishing yourself. You're not helping yourself to get back on track and to refuel every day. So when you don't do that, what happens is a little bit more goes and a little bit more goes and a little bit more goes. And then by the time you get to the end of the week, you've got nothing left, right? So what happens when we live that way, day by week, by month, by year, is we really put ourselves in a place for burnout. We put ourselves in a place of depression and anxiety and probably just trauma, right? Because we're not taking care of ourselves. So part of this recovery journey is looking at, I'm here to help my clients, but I'm also needing to help myself. So what does that look like? Yeah. So my RAP plan is I give myself at least 30 minutes of me time at the end of my day. And I like it because it's kind of like a tribute to, I have just finished my day and I've done a really great job with that. So, you know, my work needs are good, my family needs are good, you know, house is picked up, dinner is done, homework's done, son's in bed. Okay, I have shows I like to watch, I TiVo them, and I just sit down and I just mindfully watch my TiVo shows. And if I can get an hour in, great, but if I can't, I'm at least getting 30 minutes in. And when I don't, I notice it the next day because I feel kind of like something's missing. So I would highly encourage that for you, to really think about, what is that for me? What do I want to do? And make that happen every day. Because then when you don't, you'll know, I'm starting not to feel well. And that's how you know yourself. That's how you know, like I'm talking about that RAP plan. And that's how you'll be able to help your clients to identify, what does that look like for you? And then say, oh yeah, I get it. This is what it looks like for me. Or noticing and saying, I just want to say that I notice when I get here, this is what happens. Have you ever noticed that? Oh yeah, okay, that's what's going on right now. But if we're detached and we don't know and we're not aware, how are we going to work on that with them? So that's why it starts here. If you feel that you've lost all hope, which people in your life can you reach out to, and how might those people be helpful? And then the goal with this one is to help our clients find a support system outside of the support that we give as well. We may be the starting support system for them, but our goal should be to encourage them to set up support outside of us, right? Kern Behavioral Health, the programs that we offer, Crestwood, because we want to give them that life worth living. We want to give them those connections. We want to help them to see that you can have meaning and purpose outside of being a recovery health client, right? Okay. And by sharing that with them, it's going to help them have a concept at 4 o'clock when you start to feel this way. What can you do instead? Oh, remember how you talked about you like hanging out with Johnny and you and Johnny go to the pet store and you look at X, Y, and Z? Well, it sounds like Johnny is a really great support system to you, and it sounds like going to the pet store is a really great support system for you. So that might be something we can put down on your safety plan, is when you are feeling X, Y, and Z, you can hang out with Johnny and you and Johnny maybe can go to the pet store, for example, right? But if we have on our care plan that we're always going to, our safety plan rather, that we're always going to call me at 4 o'clock on a Friday, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, but we want to be shaping that. We want to be helping them. We want to be giving them those resources. We want to be empowering them to make those choices and set up that life for themselves outside of being that mental health client. I see this all the time with our clients at Crestwood. They're with us for such a long period of time often, and they don't know what to do once they leave. They don't have that support system for themselves once they leave. So we have had those opportunities where we invite them to come back. We invite them to do skills groups. We do different things at CFLC so that those clients can come back and gain that support from us in that kind of an outpatient setting. But also really helping them to connect with, look at you, you really seem to enjoy so-and-so's company. So-and-so and you guys might be able to connect and exchange phone numbers and, really kind of provide each other that peer support, right? We've even had some of our Dreamcatcher clients who've been working with us come back and stay employed post-discharge because we know that sometimes they just don't have that support. And so we've given that opportunity to work with us for up to a year, but we know every day our primary goal is to help get them support. Every day we're helping them, we're out there, we're working, and we're doing things in the community, and we're always looking at who can be that next support person to you. How can we help shape that support? What does support mean? What does it look like? If we are going to be their support system, that's fine. That's wonderful because we'd rather them have us than nobody. But what we always want to try to do too is help them to connect with as many people as possible. So again, they have that fulfilling, enriching life outside of it. Because if you think about, a lot of times our clients are coming back into the hospital, coming back into services, coming back because they're missing something in their life. Does that make sense? That missing sometimes is that big, beautiful world out there, outside of being that mental health client that consumer in the moment. So just those little things that we want to keep in our mind, keep in that back of the mind. Oh, okay, let's really try to help them find that person, find that support system, find what that looks like for them. And how do we do that? By sharing who those people were for us. When I was in this crisis, or I had this going on, this was my support system. This is what these folks did for me. Or I went to some different groups, and this is what these groups did for me. That kind of thing. What are 3 goals that you are working hard to achieve in the next 12 months? Okay, this is kind of like your treatment plan. What do I want to work on? Where do I see myself going? And the reason for that is so that we can say to our clients, I'm working on things too. We're all working on things, right? Life is a process, and we're all doing our best every day to navigate through it. You know, I'm working on figuring out how to master now 6th grade math. Scary. I barely made through 5th grade math, right? With my son. It's like, oh gosh. Okay. You know, and I may say that to the clients and they laugh at me, but again, it's a moment, it's an opportunity, it's a genuine interaction. It's, you know what, we're all working on things. It never stops. Because a lot of times they think that, oh, I'm the only one that's here working on something. I'm the only one that has a treatment plan. I'm the only one that has goals. No, we all do. We're all working on things. Okay? And, you know, whoops, I fell off, you know, and I am nowhere near my goal of losing 25 pounds for the end of the summer. That's not my goal. That's way too drastic. I'd be happy with 5, right? But if I, you know, if I fell off and I say, you know what, I had a really bad weekend of eating chocolate, so I need to really work on myself. Remember how you're working on your stuff? I'm working on my stuff too. And I've said that to the clients, and they look at me like, oh, okay, yeah. So we're having that meaningful dialogue back and forth, that recovery is possible. It's all around. We're all working on it. We're all recovering from something. We all have goals. Hopefully, we should, right? Okay. Questions about this before we move on? Okay. Recovery vision. So we want to be promoting the use of coping skills, which I'm going to give you here in a few minutes. We want to be promoting the use of those natural resources like we've been talking about, you know, the support system that's available in the community, our friends, our family, our church, helping them connect with maybe people that they haven't connected with in the past, helping them connect with other peers who can really mentor them and provide that peer support. Cheerleading them, looking at all those individual successes and helping them to see that those successes are going to help you to get to your goal. And your goal is that you want to live independently in the community. Well, you have. You've lived independently in the community for 3 or 4 months. So you're well on your way. You know, 12 months is just around the corner. Engaging them, not forcing them, supporting that person with where they are in their recovery, and remembering it's not your experience, it's theirs, okay? So it's their experience at this moment. And when they have fear, we want to really look at, okay, I get recovery can be really scary because there might be some demands placed on you that you feel like you might not be ready for. But what have we learned, right? What do we know? We know that when we fall down, we get back up. We all do. We know that these challenges make us stronger. We know that, you know, maybe this medication isn't working for you right now. Well, at least we know it's not working for you. Let's find one that does, right? We know that you maybe need more support on Fridays at 4 o'clock because you need somebody to kind of help think about the plans that we need to put in place to help you get through those weekends. So it's really helping them to see that these are opportunities. They're all out there. They're for us, you know, to grab a hold of, for us to see the potential in every opportunity. Okay? So the accepts skill is your next one, and this is DBT. And I like this one because I really feel like you get so much out of it. And it's a wonderful skill that we can use for all of our clients in all different circumstances and situations that really just provide a wonderful way to cope with, whatever might be going on right now, okay? So I am going to be looking for some volunteers to help me read this morning. So what I'll do is I'll start the next one, and then I'll just say any volunteer, and you guys can just read it, and we'll just go from there, okay? And we'll give some examples. So this comes from the distress tolerance module. If any of you know of DBT or are interested in learning about DBT, there's 4 modules, and those modules are skills modules. And the modules are set up to be used in certain circumstances, so to speak. So the distress tolerance module I love because I think it works really well for all types of situations, and it's really just about managing distress, stress, frustration, our emotions, stress, all the things we all have going on in our lives on any given day. So it's very real and applicable, okay? So distracting with activities. So when we feel like we're having a hard time, or we know that crisis is maybe around the corner, or something has triggered us, we want to try to distract what's going on with an activity. So focusing our attention on a task that we need to get done, maybe watching a movie, cleaning our house or our room, finding an event to go to, playing computer games, walking, exercise, surfing the internet, writing emails, playing sports, going out for a meal or favorite food, calling a friend, listening to your iPod, downloading music, building something, spending time with your kids, playing cards, reading magazines, doing Sudoku puzzles, basically anything. So anything is an activity, right? I mean, this is just a small list of activities. We all do different activities. What are some things that you guys like to do? Let's just throw them out there. Read. Yep, I love to read as well. Good, perfect. Let's keep going. Cook dinner. So cooking can be a great distraction activity for you, okay? Others? Right now, you're here listening to me or taking this seminar or training. This is a distraction activity, right? You're focused on work. You're focused on learning something new. You're not thinking about what's going on for you in your life, what might be waiting for you at 5 o'clock that you need to be dealing with. Shopping online. Okay, perfect. Anybody else? Spending time with your kids, exactly. So we all have activities. We all do different things, okay? We all do these things and we don't even think about them being skills. We don't even think about them being distraction activities, okay? Because they're so ingrained in who we are. A lot of times our clients don't understand what coping skills look like, or they don't realize that what they're already doing is coping skills. One of the things that I teach to my staff a lot when I teach these trainings and different things is I say, we have to go behind and close the loop, okay? So we teach them the skills, and then when we teach them the skills and we see them use the skills, we want to praise them for that. Oh, look at you using distraction with activities. That's fantastic, right? So they see that, oh, I am doing a skill. I am using something. As opposed to that missed opportunity and us not catching them and saying that they've done that, then they don't really see that they are being skillful. So when you sit down with them and you say, well, what coping skills have you used this week? And they say, oh, I don't know, I haven't used any, right? It's because those missed opportunities have happened and they don't see that they actually are using them. So that's where I always say to my staff, go behind and shape it, close that door, okay? Say to them, look at that, that's great, you're using your thoughts. Okay, just like you guys are all using your skills. Yes?
Do you think that sometimes, this was a great, activity, definitely. But what happens when you get to that point where that's all that your participant wants to do? Or even in our own lives at home, where we have, we have children that have behavioral health challenges, and
Right.
this is all they want to do.
Right.
They don't want to deal with where they're at.
Right.
Kind of
Right.
work on that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where we have to stress that life is a balance, right? We don't want to avoid everything and we don't want to distract away everything. We have to look at where we are and focus on what we're able to handle in this moment. And I think a lot of times people don't dive into what needs to be worked on because maybe they don't have the ego strength or the self-preservation to work on it. So we want to give them those opportunities with these skills to be able to tolerate the uncomfortable, to tolerate that distress, right? To tolerate in this moment, I may have a conversation with you that might trigger you a little bit because we need to talk about why you hit Johnny, okay? But after we talk about why you hit Johnny, you can go do something that you need to do to distract yourself a little bit because that might be uncomfortable for you. or that might bring up something for you. And you've done a really good job talking about that with me, so you should go do something that you want to do. So really seeing and helping them to balance that out is important as well. It's kind of like you say to your kids, let's get your homework done first, right? And then you can go play outside, or then you can go get on your, Xbox and play that for a while. But you have to do your responsibilities first. So, it wouldn't be any different with the clients, with the work that we do with them as well. We want to encourage coping skills as opposed to self-harm, right? Let's figure out maybe if we can use a skill instead of self-harm, because that self-harm may have been you trying to use a coping skill in the past. It just maybe isn't really working for you. Because a lot of times we know our clients are cutting for a couple reasons. They're cutting to release pain, and they're cutting to feel pain because of things that are, pent up inside of them. So we want to help them to see that let's find something instead of. Let's find a replacement, okay? The contributing. Anybody want to read that one? Any volunteers? Okay, perfect.
Find a volunteer work to do, help a friend or family member, surprise someone with something nice, a card, a finger, a hug.
Mm-hmm.
Give away things you don't need, call or send a instant message, encouraging someone, just saying hi, make something nice for someone else, do something thoughtful, and others.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so think of all the ways we all contribute every single day, right? We contribute by coming to work, we contribute to the lives of other people, we contribute when we make meals, right? We contribute. Our clients are no different. We want to help them understand that you can feel better about yourself and the circumstances you're in by sometimes just doing a really nice, thoughtful gesture for somebody else, right? So think about when we do something that's selfless, how well we feel, how much better we feel afterwards because we've come behind and done something. Like, as much as I don't like to part with things in my closet, I actually really enjoy kind of going through and organizing things, dropping things off at Goodwill, knowing that many of our clients work in those kind of settings. It feels good to know, like, this isn't working for me. I'm not using it. It's not something I'm using anymore, but now I can drop this off and I can help somebody else really have something that they need, right? So you're contributing, you're distracting, you're providing an opportunity for somebody to have something that really is going to benefit them, okay? Sitting and talking to somebody is contributing, right? There's lots and lots of ways that we do that. Somebody going and sitting amongst a support group is contributing. The peer support environment is contributing. So there's all kinds of ways that we naturally are contributing when we really just don't think about that. But we feel good doing it. And the goal behind that is helping our clients, again, to find those moments that they can get enjoyment, find those moments that they can cope. Comparisons. Any volunteers?
I'll read it.
Thank you.
Distressing with comparisons. Compare how you were feeling now to a time when you felt different.
Mm-hmm.
Think about people coping to the same as you or less well than you.
Mm-hmm.
Compare yourself to those less fortunate. Watch reality shows about other troubles. Read about disasters, others' sufferings.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So comparisons, you can use this a couple of different ways. So you can say to the client that you're working with, I just want to say, I have worked with you for a year, and you are the best right now than I have ever seen you. You are doing spectacular. You've got this going on for yourself. You're doing this, you're doing that. Look at you. Look at how awesome you're doing, right? Because that is going to motivate them to keep on going. Or I've used it the other way. Again, with a client that I know very well, I have a rapport with, and I think can tolerate the distress of this in a second, I'll say, I have to be honest with you. I think right now in this moment, you maybe aren't doing as well as I've seen you in the past. Maybe you're not reaching out as much as you should be. Maybe you're not going to the CFLC as much as I've known you to go. You've been kind of consistently dropping appointments. I just feel like that you're not where I've seen you be. What do you think that is like for you? Or why do you think that might be? right? So you're kind of using a time in their life as a kind of a benchmark to go back or to go forward. Again, with a client that you know can tolerate you saying that to them. I don't just say this to a brand new client that I've never had a rapport with. I say this to somebody that I've known and worked with for years, that I can comfortably say, I just want to point something out. You know, I just want to point out that I've really noticed you're not really using your skills. You know, you're maybe are stuck right now kind of in this place in your recovery when I've seen you here. So what can we do to help you get here again? So it can be another nice motivator, another kind of checks and balance, so to speak, of how can we help you move forward, okay? The other person suffering and all that, that gets a little weird. And so what I would say how you might use that is somebody may be having an example that they bring up where they say, you know, you know, my mom is really having a hard time and I'm worried about her because I know that if she continues to go in this pathway, she's probably going to end up in the hospital and I really worry for her. And you can say something to the effect of, yeah, I totally get that. I would be worried too. I mean, how are you handling that? And then you could say something to the effect of, you know, I think it's really amazing that you're in this place in your recovery where you can notice that. Because there was a time when I was working with you that you might not have been able to really see that for what that was, right? How I see this sometimes in my work at Crestwood is I'll have clients that'll come in very, very ill on our PUF unit, which is our highest level, our psychiatric health facility, and they'll spend a few days in that environment and they'll see all different types of clients during that time period. And they may come up and they say to one of us, you know, my struggles are just not that bad. I have really seen some folks here over the last few days that are very, very ill, and I really feel like I'm okay. My struggles are not that bad, and I now have a renewed idea of how I can kind of get through this. So I just want to let you know that this has been a really great learning opportunity for me. Yeah.
You know, that's exactly what I was just thinking when I compare yourself to those less fortunate, because I have the similar situation with someone recently that came out and he said, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
I think that this helped me, you know, realize
Right.
that I have the capacity
Right.
to do more than what I'm doing. So he
Yeah.
took ownership back of his life and the recovery process. So yeah, it's a huge success. When
It
you
is.
see that.
Exactly.
Really.
Exactly. When those opportunities present themselves and when you can kind of grab a hold of it in this skill. So look for it, wait for your clients to say it. And sometimes I've even looked at this for myself as, you know what, when we kind of get on those pity parties of, oh man, right? You know, things aren't where I want them to be, or oh man, here I'm here. And I think to myself, a year ago, I had this going on, or 2 years ago, I had this going on. Okay, I'm really good. I'm in a good place. Like I'm feeling really good about where I'm at right now. So there's all kinds of different ways you can use comparisons. You just have to really kind of grab a hold of it and be open to it. Okay, with different emotions, any volunteers? Thank you.
Read emotional books or stories or letters. Watch emotional TV shows. Go to emotional movies. Listen to emotional music. Be sure the event creates different emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Ideas: scary movies, joke books, comedies, fun records, religious music, soothing music, or music that fires you up, going to a store and reading funny greeting cards.
Thank you. Okay, so exactly. So we know that we're dealing with a client who has battled depression. We know that we've got somebody that is probably going to need a pick-me-up, right? So we're working with them. We want to be creating those opportunities where we can spark that different emotion, okay? So we want to be lighthearted. We want to, have humor. We want to, maybe on our drive to the clinic, see if we can find some music that's kind of got some beat and something kind of lighthearted that we can listen to. Or, maybe you think about, oh, I read this really great, book the other day, or this poem, or this card, or this, funny whatever. And you say, oh, I really want to share this with so-and-so because they've been really kind of just battling depression lately. So what you want to do is spark an opposite emotion of what this person is struggling with or what you're struggling with, okay? So if you are feeling a little depressed, if you're feeling a little like, oh, I'm tired, I'm worn out, I need a break, we naturally do things to help ourselves feel better, right? We talked a little bit about this when we did our activities. We maybe go and we look at things online and we shop a little bit, or we may go out to, the mall and we may go buy something, or we may go out for a meal or go get a coffee with a friend. We go and find something to do that's going to prompt an opposite emotion. Maybe we go to a movie. We do something that's going to give us some sense of relief, something that's going to prompt joy and fun. Okay, so we want to be doing the same thing for our clients and speaking to them in that way. Remember those times when you start to kind of get down and out, which happens to the best of us. It's just part of life, right? What can we do that's going to prompt that opposite emotion? And that's actually how I say it to our clients. We got to prompt some opposite emotion. So what are we going to do? Well, you know what? Let's go in, let's turn some music on. I know that you like to dance. Why don't you do some dancing and just kind of do some movement, some stretching? Or you've told me you love that movie. You could put that movie on, right? You love spending time with so-and-so because they're really fun. So you want to help them to identify that this emotion or this feeling or this whatever creates issue for you sometimes. So what can we do to help you bounce out of that, right? Because living in that state chronically isn't helpful either. We can do something to feel better. That's part of our recovery. You don't have to be in this, pity party right now. We can do something different. And I think a lot of times that's what our clients need to hear. They don't realize that, oh, yes, I'm sad. Yes, I maybe am struggling with depression, but this depression doesn't have to define me. It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be my end-all, be-all. I can do other things to help myself feel better also, okay? So these skills is my attempt in helping you to see that it's all about, the way we do it, how we do it, the mechanisms that we use, and helping them to see that it's possible all along the way by using different opportunities, by using different skills, by looking at things from a different perspective. If I'm depressed, I'm probably not going to want to watch The Notebook, right? I'm going to probably turn on something that's really funny, that gets me going, probably something Adam Sandler related, right? So I can have some jokes and I can laugh. So we want to prompt that opposite emotion. Same thing with anxiety. So you've got somebody that's really, really anxious. What do we want to do? How do we want to help them cope with that anxiety? How do we cope with our anxiety?
Make sure the things that we're watching don't create more anxiety.
Exactly.
No horror movies.
Exactly. We probably want to cut down a little on our coffee, right? You shared that as an example. That gets me wired. It gets me kind of like, ugh, okay. We probably want to notice, okay, I'm feeling a little edgy. What's going on? Probably should have one less cup of coffee, and now I should switch over to tea. Why am I edgy? Am I hot? Am I hungry? Take care of those basic needs. Turn on some music that's soothing maybe before I go to my next appointment, right? Maybe we want to go and just spray on, something that cools you off. I know for the males in the room, you guys are like, what? I'm a big scent person, so I have a lot of the things from Bath and Body, especially when it's hot, I'll just spray them on myself or whatever. It's like, oh, I feel better, right? So that kind of soothes us when we're anxious. Or just maybe do some mindful walking around just for a second to kind of gather our thoughts or do some deep breathing. So we notice we're anxious and we do the opposite emotion to anxiety to calm ourselves down. Same thing with our clients. We notice they're anxious about something, so we want to do something opposite emotion to help calm them down. So how about we just take a walk for a second, just take some deep breaths while we're walking? Or how about we just go and splash some cold water on our face just for a second, right? Or even just washing our hands and letting that cool water run over our wrists for a few minutes can kind of calm us down. It's a really hot day. I don't know if any of you have ever done this when it's just really hot and you're just like, oh my gosh, you go get a paper towel and just kind of pull that cool paper towel on your neck for a few minutes. Just kind of soothes you and calms you down. So we're doing all these things. Sometimes we maybe are doing them with our clients. And I've had those moments too with the clients where, maybe we've had a big incident on the unit, we've resolved it, we kind of diffuse the energy, and now it's like, okay, I don't know about you guys, but I need some coping skills. And I'll say it to them just like that, and they'll laugh. Yeah, Rhonda, okay, so what do we need to do? Let's go get something. Let's get something cool to drink. How about we go and turn the radio on for a few minutes and get some, soothing music going on. Let's take some deep breaths. Because, yeah, we had some high energy. We got through that. It's all fantastic. Everybody's fine. But now let's bring the energy down. Let's calm ourselves down. So, using those real examples help them to see you're a real person too. You're not just saying use a coping skill. We're using them together. And we're then going behind and saying, look what coping skill we just used. That was really effective. Okay? So, pushing away. Any volunteers? Thank you.
Push the situation away by leaving it for a while. Leave the situation mentally. Build an imaginary wall between yourself and the situation. Block thoughts and images from your mind. Notice ruminating, yell no. Refuse to think about the painful situations. Put the pain on a shelf. Box it up and put it away for a while. Deny the problem for the moment and others.
Yeah, so the disclaimer to push away is we don't want to push away permanently. We don't want to push our life away, push our problems away. Don't ever focus on them, right? Like, oh, okay, I'm never looking at that over there again. But it's right now in this moment, I want to push this thought away or push this feeling away or push this situation away long enough that I can function and be effective in my everyday life. You guys probably push away all day and don't realize it. You've been dealing with some stressful circumstances, maybe in your own personal life, and you kind of push away as you get into the door, you sit down for a training. Right now in this moment, I'm focusing on what I'm learning, I'm focusing on listening, I'm focused on being effective, and I'm also not thinking about X, Y, and Z and what I gotta go do at 5 o'clock, right? Or that distressing phone call that I need to make. So you're putting it over here, you're pushing it away for a while, and you're focusing on right now in this moment. So we want to help our clients to do that too. Oh my gosh, I have this doctor's appointment tomorrow and I'm so anxious and I just don't want to go. I know it's going to be terrible. I know the doctor's going to be all over me about, what kind of things have been going on and, why am I not using my coping skills and possibly a med change again and I don't want to go back on this medication. And right now you're in this moment and you've got this time with them and you want to help them proceed skillfully, right? So you can say to them, well, you know what? Tomorrow's tomorrow. We've got a lot of time between now and then. Right now in this moment, I have, the next 30 minutes with you, and I really want us to focus on kind of what we can do in these 30 minutes so we can continue to move forward, okay? So what can we do? Oh, that's right, you wanted to talk about so-and-so, or you wanted to look at this, or you wanted my help in making this phone call. So let's focus on that, and let's push this over here for just a little while, because tomorrow is tomorrow. So we'll talk about that before I leave you, but I really want to get to what we need to focus on right now in this moment, which is this task, okay? You work on this task, you praise them for them being able to just kind of push away for a second, and then you bring it back to, okay, now tomorrow is going to be tomorrow, you've got that doctor's appointment, how are you going to be able to cope? What do you think you're going to be able to do, okay? Maybe you say to them, yell no to yourself if you start to ruminate, because that's really what that person's doing is they're ruminating, right? So remember, we've talked about this. One of the things you might want to just say to yourself is no. When you find yourself in that moment where you're doing that, just tell yourself, nope, right? Don't do that. It's not helping me. I'm catastrophizing again. But I'm going to use my skills because this is what you and I have been doing, and I know I can do it, right? And you want to just praise them. Yes, I know you can too. You're going to do a great job. Okay, with other thoughts, any volunteers? Thank you.
Count to 10, count coloring, painting, or a poster, or out of the window, count anything. Repeat word to a song in mind. Word puzzles, watch TV or read, or others.
Thank you. So we do this all the time, right? We're reading, we are doing something at home that requires some attention. We're thinking about things, and when we're really engrossed in a topic, we're really kind of in the moment with what's going on, we're going to be less likely to think about all the other things that are distressing, right? So how I would use this with a client is they say, oh my gosh, I have these constant thoughts right now that I want to hurt myself. And I've really been working my DBT, Rhonda, and I don't want to hurt myself, but right now I just keep feeling like I want to hurt myself, and I'm just going to do it. And I'm going to say, nope. Remember what we're working on. We're not going to do that. Okay, so where are we? I'm just going to put myself at Crestwood because I can put myself there and make it easier than this room right now because I'm not totally used to all your things in the room. So I'm putting myself at Crestwood and I'm saying, okay, I get it. I'm right here with you. I don't want you to cut either. We've got all those great skills we've been working on. Right now we're in the dining room. What can we count? What are things we can count right now to get our mind off of cutting? So in our world, we have these wonderful big kind of tiles that are multiple colors. So we've got light gray tiles, we've got dark brown tiles, we've got light brown tiles, we've got some tiles that have kind of like a textury look to them. And so maybe I'm right there in that dining room with this client and I can say, okay, right now in this moment, I want you to literally count as many of the dark, big brown tiles as you can. So like maybe 1 out of every 4 is that dark brown, gives you an example. So the client will go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There's 18, Rhonda. Okay, perfect, there's 18. Okay, now let's count the light brown tiles. Okay, the light brown. And so they'll turn around and they'll count the light brown. And then they'll say, okay. And I'll say, how do you feel? Oh, I feel pretty good. And how are your thoughts? Better. I feel better. So I've literally taken the thought of I want to cut, and I have distracted it with something very mindful. Counting, thinking, right? She has to think about, because she's counting, how many tiles. And she's focusing on what she's looking at in the room. And now she's switching gears and she's focusing on something else over here. And so I pulled her thought away from that self-harm onto something neutral. Something pretty easy in the room that I can grab a hold of and use. Okay? So if you're in this room, you could literally just say, let's count the chairs, okay? Or let's count the water bottles that are in the back. What I've done with clients that I've been in the community with is I'll say, let's count every white card that passes us in the next minute, okay? Or let's count if I'm in the long hallway of my facility. Let's count every picture that has orange in it. Okay, so they'll go and they'll walk up and down and they'll say, okay, this one has got orange. Okay, 1, that one's got orange. 2, right? And so I'm literally just using what I have in that moment to count. Does that make sense? And that seems to really work because that thought, that intense focus on something is going to pull them out of that moment, those thoughts that are distressing, onto something that's neutral. So that's how I've used that one. I've also had clients sit and do puzzles. Puzzles can be really, really helpful. The Sudoku puzzles can be helpful. Crossword puzzles can be helpful. So you have a client that you're working with in the community that has these thoughts every now and then, and they like crossword puzzles. You might want to look at maybe some crossword puzzles as a resource, right? And helping them to see that, again, recovery is possible. Just because you have these thoughts doesn't mean that you have to go to the hospital every time. It means that maybe we need to help you put some skills in place that are going to help you cope with distress. You know, I have thoughts all the time that I don't want to make dinner every night, right? But I still go home and I make dinner. So what do we need to do to set us up for success, right? And you share generic little examples with them. Okay. I make sure that I grocery shop. I make sure that I have recipes ready. I make sure that, I have X, Y, and Z in place. So when I have those thoughts every now and then, because I'm going to have them, I'm going to go back to what my default is, what I already have in place for myself. Okay, make sense? Okay, other sensations. Anybody want to read that one? Thank you.
Please remember ball very hard. Listen to very loud music. Hold ice in your hand or mouth. Go out in the rain or snow. Take a hot or cold shower.
So the sensations is really for the clients who, again, want to cut, who have that propensity to maybe headbang or hit something to cope and to soothe themselves. So, it's maybe a small population of clients that you can say, okay, you and I have been really working on this together. The goal has been to really work on self-harming less because we really are motivated to do that. So let's find some things that we can use instead. And it's replacement. Everything we're doing is kind of stepping them down from that act of cutting or that self-harm or whatever. So finding something to squeeze, listening to that loud music, holding that ice in your hand can get really cold and distressing after a few minutes, or taking that ice and rubbing it on your arms, going out in the rain and just feeling that rain kind of pelt you on your face. Taking that cold or hot shower, again, is that stimulation, okay? So you're just working to find that replacement. So that is our handout 7, which is our distress tolerance. And again, I think it's a great one because you can use it for any type of client and pretty much all types of situations. Any questions about that one before we move on? You guys are okay? Yes.
Down here,
Uh-huh.
is there like a website I can get it from?
Oh, yes, there is. And as they're going to be getting their DBT also as well from the DBT team.
Okay.
Yes, now, are you gonna be for those folks that are gonna be working with our clinical team, I think you're gonna be a recovery specialist, you will go through the clinical side of the house, the clinical track, and you will be getting exposure to DBT. We don't have RAP in it yet, we're getting some folks certified. So
Nice.
you'll get some experience with DBT, the CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy,
Uh-huh.
solution focused therapy, motivational interviewing right now, and then we'll incorporate RAP into that. So you will get some exposure, our folks going through that clinical track.
Nice. And yes, you can go to the website. These skills you can even purchase, like Barnes & Nobles or Amazon online, Mary Ellen Copeland. There's a whole set of just great skills. I would definitely say, I just went over a very generic skill with you guys in a few minutes. You want to get trained in it before you take it out there. So I'm sure your DBT folks will help you with that. Okay, so again, you want to just keep promoting the use of those coping skills, promoting the use of your supports, promoting the use of families, friends, church, all the things that are out there in our community that are wonderful natural resources, and just really empowering them to make those really great choices, okay? Recovery vision is a continual process that needs to be validated and supported, not judged or demeaned. And then there's my quote that I started with this morning. So you just want to keep talking the talk, walking the walk. A lot of times people will say, how can I learn more about recovery? And it's such a big topic. You can see when I was first asked to do this training, I thought, there's so many different angles that I could go in with you guys, and there's so many different directions. How can I narrow it down to a small period of time, and how can I also make it user-friendly enough for different levels and different folks and different tracks of employment? And so my goal in doing this is to really give you an overview, of what recovery looks like, an idea, a belief, a concept, a feeling, of giving you guys this idea as you're sitting here this morning of what does this feel like, How has this felt for me? Because that feeling is recovery. The feeling that you have after you've solved a really hard problem or walked through a really difficult place in your life or been able to work with somebody that has gone through X, Y, and Z, and you have been there with them every step of the way, is that recovery, okay? And so recovery is really, like I said, it's an individualized process. It's a belief system. It's a huge concept, but at the end of the day, it's really about being open to the possibility, okay? Non-recovery, I feel like, is the opposite. It's being closed off, it's being judgmental, it's being, black and white, it's being rigid, Where recovery is kind of the opposite of all that. It's being open-minded, it's being experience-oriented, It's being strength-based. It's being non-judgmental. It's being genuine, right? It's being open to endless possibilities. It's about your individual experience, your story, your feeling. So I really think that when you're working with clients and you start to feel maybe like you're closing off or you're limited or you're feeling like you're not coming up with fresh perspective, might be when you're not thinking about things in that recovery way. Does that make sense? Do you guys have any examples that you want to add to that?
Can you elaborate?
I'll give you an example of kind of what our environment looks like at Crestwood, since this is the next one. So we definitely use recovery-oriented language. We use strength-based language. You can see that probably just in the 3 hours I've been with you this morning, kind of the way that I talk about things, the way that we look at things, the concepts that we use, the skills that we use, the programs that we use. We use furniture that is just regular furniture that comes from furniture stores like Ashley, Oak Liquidators. We're not buying hospital-like furniture. We use colors that are just like colors that we would want to put in our homes, that are neutral and tan and browns and grays and blues and light greens and things that really are friendly and cheerful. We use pictures throughout the facilities, pictures that of course are safe, but pictures nonetheless that are inspiring, that have lots of quotes and meaning and sunsets and large trees and things that really inspire, okay? So that's an example of kind of what a recovery environment looks like, where a non-recovery environment might look more institutionalized, right? May have more of that institutional feel or that institutional setup or those institutional type beds or non-pictures on the wall or, colors that are dark and bright and kind of depressing, right? So you can kind of think about the ways in which recovery looks versus maybe the ways that it doesn't look, right? Where people aren't necessarily talking about the future and moving forward and a life worth living. They might be more talking about we need to do X and we need to do Y and we need to do Z before you can go here. Does that make sense? So I think it's really easy to compare the two to give you that concept of what it looks like because it is so broad. I mean, it's a broad topic, but really it's more about what is it meaning to you? If you were in a setting and you were receiving treatment, what would you want that treatment to look like? What would you want it to look like? Would you want?
For yourself, like if that's the treatment fit for you.
Correct. Right.
Something relaxing like the beach.
Right. Something relaxing like the beach. Something that's home-like. You'd want to be around people that had a vision about what recovery looks like, right? You'd want to be working amongst professionals that believe that recovery is possible, right? Okay. So, we can all think about places that we've been that either look recovery or don't look recovery. I think that the opportunity for you all to be sitting in this room experiencing this class is absolutely a testament to recovery and a testament to the vision of where the department wants to go, and the principles and the values of where the department wants to to be and to move and to evolve and to bring you all in as new employees as part of this journey, I think is absolutely recovery oriented. And it's really a testament to who Kern County is. So, yeah, you really think about it from that perspective. Okay, so the recovery language. I've given you two different things. And this was really in my attempt to help those who are going to go out and who are going to be using recovery language for treatment planning purposes. So does anybody in this room, and maybe you know or don't know yet, I don't know everybody's kind of individual pathway, Writing, are you going to be writing care plans, writing goals, writing recovery service plans? Yes, yes, yes. Most of you? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So what my goal was is providing you guys information through these handouts. One of them is the Recovery Lexicon, which comes straight from Recovery Innovations and their peer support training. And then the other one is a handout that my clients received when they went through the Community Family Learning Center recovery training. So there's two different ones. We'll start with the lexicon first. And this one is pretty thick. It's a great little packet that you can use and keep in your desk area. And so what I love about it is it's kind of like, this is the old school verbiage, now here's the new recovery-oriented language. So it really gets us out of that mindset when you're documenting about how can I be recovery-oriented. I've learned what recovery is, I'm in touch with my story, now how can I really go out there and document in a way that is recovery-oriented, okay? So I know a lot of times, you know, we have said, client has a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, right? Or client is borderline, right? So we're just labeling that client with their diagnosis, as opposed to really saying client has a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, or client has a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, right? Yes, we need to get the diagnosis in there, but it sounds much better than saying client is bipolar, right? Because it's kind of like saying you are that, right? You are diabetes if you have diabetes. No, I am a person who has diabetes, or I am a person that has, you know, hypothyroidism, or whatever it is. It sounds so much better when we put just a few more words in there. They're having a lot of fun out there. So let's use a couple as an example. Let's take some that we're probably going to see. So somebody that is chronically kind of going through the mental health system, maybe utilizing the Mary Kay shell a lot. Someone might say an abuser of service or an abuser of treatment, as opposed to saying someone looking for something else, being resourceful, okay? Someone has an addiction, so addict, as opposed to saying, now that we've learned recovery-oriented language, person with addiction challenges. Sounds a lot better, right? Agitated, I see that a lot. Even my staff put this a lot. Okay, client is agitated. I'll say, what does that mean? We're all agitated on any given day, right? The heat is agitating us. What does that mean? Use your recovery terms. Upset. Something upset this client, or, you know, this client maybe was triggered around this situation, or client has a lot of energy today around this. Agoraphobia, you may see that come up every now and then. Uncomfortable going outside. Person who fears leaving the house. Person might happen to lose control outside of their control zone. Baseline, we see that a lot. Client is at baseline, as opposed to in a space that they are on a regular basis, a usual familiar place. Okay, so they're saying again for the diagnosis, saying the person with the diagnosis of, as opposed to the person is bipolar. Okay, case, they're saying refer to as your person, use your names, use, you know, client, consumer, guest, whatever it is, as opposed to saying my case, that kind of thing. Client, they're using different verbiage, guest, participant, again, the person's name or person who we're supporting. Combative, that's another fun one where we say the person is combative. Okay, again, what does that mean? Are they aggressive? And if they're aggressive, what does that mean? Client may hit, client may punch a hole in the wall, client may do X, Y, and Z when this occurs. So you want to describe, you want to actually list what does that look like. Okay, crisis, so again, an opportunity, emergency, personal emergency. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over the crazy one. I think I did that on purpose because that's definitely one that I just cringe when I hear, right? This person is acting crazy. It's like, and who doesn't act crazy on any given day, right? I mean, we could all act crazy depending on what the situation is. We're in the line at the DMV for 2 hours. I mean, that might elicit something in us, right? So you could say misunderstood. This client may be experiencing symptoms today that appear that they may be misunderstood. We're not able to connect with them. They're not able to, get their needs met in a way that we feel we're able to hear and to see. So there's lots of ways that you can describe that. Our client seems to have some mood instability today. The client maybe was just this morning laughing and life seemed to be really going her way, and now this afternoon she seems very tearful and withdrawn, right? So painting that clear clinical picture as opposed to saying, client is acting crazy, right? Okay. So the list goes on and on. We don't need to necessarily go through every single one of them, but really wanted to just give you that opportunity to show you that recovery-oriented language does exist. It is out there, and this is a fantastic resource for you guys to keep near your desk area or wherever you're going to be so that you can call upon it when you guys start documenting and getting into those kind of things. And then the next one is just another one-sheeter. And it just talks a little bit about non-recovery environment versus a recovery environment. And what does that look like? Okay, so this one, just a one-sheeter. If you guys pick that one up in the back. There you go, yeah. So in a non-recovery environment, we may say something like, this client has low expectations of themselves, as opposed to hopeful with high expectations. Sounds a lot better. Stability and maintenance is the goal in a non-recovery environment, as opposed to recovery is the goal in a recovery environment. There is no clearly defined exit. That would be your non-recovery. And in your recovery would be clear exits, graduates, return, share. I like to think of client is open to the opportunities that are out there for them, or client is willing participant in their treatment plan, that kind of thing. You can really look at it in lots of different ways. Compliance is valued. That's another word I don't like. Self-determination, critical thinking, and independence are valued. Because you're looking at that personality, you're really shouting out their strong attributes. We're not hoping anybody be compliant. It's one I see a lot in my world. My staff will write, client's med compliant. I'll just circle and say, no. We shouldn't be compliant on anything. How about saying client is, willingly taking their medications independently, or a client is taking their medications as prescribed by the doctor at 8 and 11 and 5, whatever it is. But we don't have to say client is med compliant. I mean, it just really sounds like I told you and you did. That's not really very recovery oriented, right? Okay. Coercion is used to achieve compliance. I would hope to gosh we don't ever see that anywhere, right? As opposed to people become the experts in their own care. So again, some good, helpful, useful examples. Take a look at that. Keep it handy if you're going to be using documentation in your work. Okay, any questions about that? Okay. So we talked a little bit about peer support already, and I don't know if this is going to be something you guys are going to be getting any training on at some point, but I just really cannot talk enough about just the opportunities that come from peer support and that experience of peer support. Because really the goal behind it is that it's showing the possibility of recovery. So everything we are trying to do as that mental health professional in their life is paving that pathway for them, but somebody literally coming in and saying, this is what's possible, is absolutely going to speak it from a whole nother level. And I'll just share a couple of examples. So I have a few clients that come back and do peer support in our program. And I can absolutely tell you it's the group that is attended the most. We have the most participation as far as dialogue back and forth. I think our clients' moods are much better after this particular group. And the reason being is because we have somebody that's come through our setting. She's been in all 3 of our programs. So at Crestwood, we have the high level of acuity, which is our Locke Psychiatric Health Facility. like same as IPU or Good Samaritan, which is now Bakersfield Behavioral Health. There's 3 of those acute settings in town for clients that come in on a hold. And then we have a long-term facility, which is called a mental health rehabilitation facility, or MHRC. It's more long-term for clients that are needing maybe a little bit more help with their recovery. So anywhere from 6 to 9 months. And then we have the Unlocked Bridge program, which is for our clients who are really kind of at their last leg of recovery, so to speak, maybe still need a little assistance, but need some supervision, support, prompting from staff members. So I have this client that comes in once a week, and she just provides peer support to the clients in our MHRC setting, which is the long-term unit. And she does that because she has been through all my 3 programs. So she literally knows the ins and outs of our full campus. And she's a long-term client of Kern County. And she will come in and she'll sit and she'll talk with clients who might be struggling or just kind of having a hard time or not necessarily wanting to really focus on, their treatment. Maybe they're feeling a little down and out. Maybe they're just having kind of, those opportunities where they're just feeling like they're kind of stuck and not necessarily able to really see that there's an end in sight, because that does sometimes happen when you're in a locked unit for a period of time. And she literally will just talk about her story. She'll talk about how she's navigated the system. She'll talk about who she was before treatment and now who she is after treatment and what her treatment story has looked like. And I ask her a lot of times to sit with our clients who I really feel like maybe are struggling, I guess, for the lack of a better word, who are feeling like they're not 100% in control of their treatment. They maybe haven't really bought in, so to speak, yet with having kind of mental health challenges, and they're conserved or whatever their hold is, and they're just feeling kind of like, this is my life right now. And I'll have her sit with those clients, and 9 times out of 10, that client is so much better off afterwards, because this client that might be in that place of struggle is able to say, okay, if it's possible for her, it's possible for any of us. I can get through this. And oftentimes that is the corner. That is just that pivotal point that literally takes that client around that corner, and then we can start them on that recovery journey because they're really struggling with that buy-in. So I know Kern is doing a lot already with peer support. I know that there's going to be lots of opportunities out there for you guys. I just want you to remember just what I'm sharing with you, that there's just so much amazing research out there right now about the power of peer support and how if we can use it as much as we can, we really should. And it also is a great way to keep our clients who are doing well, because it's their meaningful role, right? It's creating that role for them, that opportunity for them, and it's building on their strength. So it's just the gift that keeps on giving. I can't say it enough, okay? Okay, so questions, and then we're going to end with one more exercise, and I'll probably be done like 11, so then that gives us, enough time to take a little break, kind of get segued for Roger right at 11:15. So that's pretty good? Okay, good. It just varies depending on how much participation we have and participants and all that, folks. But you guys have been great, and I appreciate that. Makes it so much funner when we're all talking and working together. So any questions about anything that I've talked about this morning? I've been that thorough, huh?
I know for the peer support training, we do have 2 to 3 more peer employment training workshops.
Good.
Coming up through the next fiscal year. the next
Perfect.
12 months. So depending on your supervisor, your job roles, you'll be able to take part in some of those.
Yeah.
And so we're getting a lot of that. We're definitely increasing that.
Good.
Peers
Good.
with our programs. So,
Perfect.
don't hesitate to ask. Again, your supervisors are going to be that main point of contact for those. But if you have questions that they can't answer, feel free to get with them, and you can work with us in the training department as well. So.
Perfect. Good stuff. Okay, so I wanted to end with the circle of support. I think this is always a really nice, fun exercise. And I did make lots of copies of some of the handouts back there, and my hope was that for you guys, that if there's something that you really love that you want to use, they're there for you to take those extra copies so that you can start kind of building your professional skills and things that you share with clients. I know that was something that I still do to this day. I'm always grabbing resources and always kind of grabbing onto new things that I really enjoy and that I think are user-friendly and meaningful for our clients, because it's a great way for you to be able to sit with them and do something that they can really grab a hold of and keep as that constant reminder that this is something that is meaningful for me. So the circle of support and our friends is just a really great way for you to see how much support you have and how much support our clients have in their lives, because a lot of times they don't really see that as a benefit, or they don't really see that I do have a lot of people. I am blessed in that way because I have that help. There are resources out there. So again, fill this in for you first. So the first circle is going to be the people in my life that are most intimate to me. So basically what that means is the people that you cannot imagine living without. Could be your children, your spouse, your mother, your father, who in that circle that you just cannot imagine not being in your life. And then your second one is your circle of friendship. So these are all your good friends. So those who almost made the first one but didn't. And then your circle, third circle rather, is your circle of participation. So people, organization, networks that you're involved with. It could be work colleagues, choir, square dancing club, softball team, church, whatever, what have you. So, it could be people that you know from your child's school that you connect with and that you see consistently. Could be little league groups. Could be, your church group. And then your fourth circle is the circle of exchange. So these are people that you pay for some type of a service. So your nail person, your barber, your what do they call them now? Hairstylist. I almost said beautician. My beautician would say, what? That's not who I am. Hairstylist. Could be someone that you exchange with. Maybe you have conversations with your gardener, the person that you pay to, do work for you. Maybe you've gotten to know them over the years, or someone that comes out and trims your trees. It is anybody that you've gotten to know that provides some type of meaningful support to you, or that you provide support to them in kind of that paid way. Okay, your mechanic, your tax accountant, all those people that you literally kind of pay for a service. And so the goal is, when this is all finished, that you see that support is multi-layered. It looks different based on what support you're getting, or who is supporting you, or how you're getting that support. But the overall theme that you want to take from that is, I do have a lot of support. I have a lot of people in my life that I see on a daily basis, or I see on a weekly basis, that provide me support. Or it could be kind of one of those two, like, I don't have as much support as I want to have, and that maybe I think I should have. So this is going to be kind of a wake up for me, like, I really probably should go out there and maybe get myself more involved in some activities, maybe join some support groups, because I know that I want to have more support in my life. So it can be used either way. But I really like it, again, because it's a great way to just sit with our clients and say, this is what support looks like, and this is kind of what you have right now out there for you and to you. And then what you can kind of put in place for them as you're helping get them ready for, discharge, or maybe that transition away from you, is showing them, like, these are all the people that are there for you. This is how you can connect with them. This is how they can connect with you, and so forth. Any questions? You guys feel like you're just all recoveried up? You're all ready to go out there and chat and talk about recovery-oriented services and utilizing your recovery-oriented language and your lexicon and all that good stuff? Okay. All right. It's a work in progress. Just remember that. It's just about being open to that opportunity. Well, thank you guys